Everyone has a story. Welcome to In Her Words, a podcast from women in entertainment where female creatives and allies share their stories in their own words.
This is a dedicated space centered on how to harness creativity for inspiring and impactful projects in the ever-changing landscape of entertainment.
I'm Renee Rossi.
I'm Gretchen McCourt.
And this is In Her Words. Jenifer, it's like we saw the news this week. We want to be obviously mindful of your announcement around around Parkinson's. So,
Right.
We're talking to you about your career a little bit too. So, kind of wanted to leave it to you as to where you wanted to go with the conversation. We want to be mindful.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm I get a little trembly but I'm good. I'm good shape. I just Parkinson's is one of those things when the diagnosis was made here. I'm in the industry. I know a lot of people in the industry who do have Parkinson's. And I realized in my work with the Michael J. Fox Foundation and our conversations that the issue of women and being diagnosed with Parkinson is a really big deal. And a lot of women don't get the proper diagnosis when they should, so that they can get on the medication they need. And so I felt like, okay, maybe if I come out and say I have Parkinson's, I'm always very open about all of our, you see my past, we're open with a lot of our family stories. Maybe that would be helpful in terms of other women in the industry being open with their Parkinson's as well, and see how we can help each other through this, new journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it's quite frustrating, scary, that it's 2025 and we're still talking about men and women having different symptoms and needing different care, and, research not, sharing equally between men and women's symptoms and care the way that they should. So the article was amazing. Thank you for sharing that part of it.
Yeah, hopefully not only about the research, but about the diagnoses for women. They get cast as sort of depressed and and we as women do so much. We don't talk about our issues that much. We do so much for others that we really don't do enough for ourselves.
Right.
So
We put ourselves
whatever I could
last
do.
always.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have been very public in terms of, your personal life and, running a successful production company. And along your journey, that's been something that you've always been. You've been very transparent and very honest. And, that seems to be one of your big characteristics that, of why people love working with you and so forth.
Yeah, thank you. I find that uh I think along the years, I'm older now, I'm in my 60s. You go along in different stages of your life, right? And you find that I find that a lot of older women in my position, uh it's just time to take all the masks off. We do all this for everybody. We're all out there playing the perfect part, right? And the thing I love most about starting my company, and obviously I was 52 when I started it. Um, yeah, I know. But
Love
right?
that. No, I love that.
So,
Yeah, that's so badass that you're not winding down, you're winding up. I love it.
well, think about how many of us get to that phase in our lives and we become, invisible. Like, and we have all this knowledge, we have all this experience. People ask me, how did you get into executive producing? I'm like, I've been producing my whole life, right? I worked on political campaigns. I raised money for organizations. Ran homeschooling programs for my kids. I did this autism program. We're all of us are all doing those kinds of things. I wasn't doing anything different, right? Well, the homeschooling is pretty different, but that was kind of an insane thing anyway. But the thing of it is here we are at really the prime of our lives, so much to give back and so much to help with. And we sort of relegate ourselves out to pasture too early, I think. So, and it's really, why did I start my company? Because I didn't have anything else to do. I had taken off the masks. I wasn't going to play those games anymore. My husband ran a big company. I wasn't doing any of that stuff I needed to do for him in the company. So I just gave myself a year and I thought, let's see what happens. And my youngest son, went to film school at Drexel University in Philadelphia. And he started talking about documentary films. And I'm Irish. I love a good story, right? I've always loved a good story. And when we started talking about it, I thought, oh, we have this story about our son and his journey with autism. There's other stories, right? And I just I decided one day, I could probably do this. And I got involved with Sundance and a couple projects they had going to Sundance. I needed some financial help. And then I got started in their Catalyst program where they bring financiers and filmmakers together. And I went to this retreat and I just fell in love with everybody. And that's how I met Morgan Neville. And I got started in Won't You Be My Neighbor? And I just remember that conversation was so inspiring. Obviously it's Morgan Neville. He's won an Oscar. He's a big time filmmaker. And so I said to them when I met his team, listen, I understand that this is a kind of an invitation only experience. So I would like to be invited and I'd like to bring you some money. And they said, well, what would you like in return? And I said, I'd like you to consider me in EP school. I don't really understand what this executive producer role is, right? And they were true to their word. They brought me in on notes. They brought me in and explained how they were going to distribute the film. They included me in changing the name because it was a different name before. And Morgan and I are still friends to this day. We just got done working on another project called Thank You Very Much, about the Andy Kaufman story. He's just a wonderful man. And that was my introduction really to the industry. And then being a part of Won't You Be My Neighbor and it exploding like it did was just our company we just took off from there. And it's been an awesome ride.
That's amazing.
Jenifer,
Yeah.
you have like you mentioned the docs and narrative films and TV shows. And how do you pick the projects that your company gets involved with? Is it the people like you said, meeting the teams, or how because not very many production companies have such a variety, I guess, of not only topics but formats and shorts, and you have everything.
I was listening to your podcast with Judy Greer, and she actually was in a movie that we did with a lovely filmmaker named Nicholas Ma that hasn't been distributed. But she said something that was really poignant, I thought. She said when she was out there auditioning, she just auditioned for everything. And some people would kind of pick a genre, right? And I did the same thing. But the one thing I was really careful about was I didn't want to get involved in anything that was a big issue kind of space. I really love stories and character. So all of our films are centered around some kind of interesting character, or some very important reason those characters are important to the story, kind of thing. So that's really what kind of gets me going. And I just I don't know. It's just some reason, just some stories stick with me, some don't.
Yeah.
I like filmmakers. I like to try new things with filmmakers. So there's no art to it. It's just kind of, what does Jen want? That's kind of like what everybody on my team is. What does Jen want to watch? So, we go from there. So
It's like you also touched it. What I thought was really interesting is you also do branded content. I thought that was interesting as well. That's very
yeah,
cool. Between
it's
theater content and film, it's like that really
You
runs
cover
the gamut
everything.
in terms of project. Not a light load.
And yeah,
well,
and Broadway, and yeah.
oh, I've got a Tony on my desk. I love it.
I know. I didn't know it was
Right?
on your desk, but yeah,
No,
that's
I got one right
amazing.
here. Um, Here's what happened when we came out of the pandemic, right? Obviously, we were fully in doc films at that point. But when we came out of the pandemic and then strikes happened, there are a lot of, you had to pivot and pivot hard because it was survival at this point. It's still survival out there. And so one of the things I thought of is let's diversify as much as possible. Um, and so I had some good friends who are producers in Broadway. So I got involved with them in a couple different shows. We've been in Here Lies Love, the Tommy remake, obviously.
I bet
We
that was
love The Outsiders. Yeah, I know, right? It was so
It
good.
was so
And,
good.
I know, right? And then we have Burlesque, premiering on the West End in London in July.
Yeah.
So that's really fun, right? And, it gives us a chance to get involved there. But the big pivot into branded content was intentional and important because here's the thing about branded content. They pay their bills in 30 days, right? If you're sitting there waiting for a film to be released, and
Yep.
then the money comes in and then you get distributions made. It could be years, right? And we didn't have years to be able to stay afloat. I had a team that I loved. They were working hard. So so in 2020, at beginning end of 2023, we sat and we redid our whole strategy and said, all right, we're going to diversify across all these places. And then the one thing that I will have accomplished by the end of this year is I will have created Wavelength into a full studio. So we have other announcements coming about other plans and pieces we're putting together the company. But the big pivot happened at the end of December last year when we bought this company called Duplex Deli. The great group of two guys and a very talented woman. They had done a lot of sports branded content, and so they had been at Vice and were extraordinarily talented creatively as well. So we bought them, folded them into the company perfectly, and they are rocking and rolling. We just finished a project for Bailey's Irish Cream and their launch of their almond milk brand, and so it's been a blast. But it is an important part of the company being able to sustain itself, pay our bills, and be able to stay afloat so that we can go out there and do the fun film projects that we used to do. Uh, so it was, it's an important part of our strategy, and it worked. So far, it's worked brilliantly.
It's wonderful. What was it like getting into Broadway in terms of like, is it from learning, like if you were kind of like an EP school in on film
All
and then
right.
transitioning to Broadway, that must have been an interesting experience for you.
Yeah, what's great about Broadway is I can be a kind of a producer investor from the outside, right?
Mm.
Because producing is really about the money mostly. People don't really understand that. You have the producers on the ground, but then the producers who bring the money to make it all happen are an important part of that equation. Uh, and it's fun. My daughter sang Broadway songs. I've always loved Broadway and all the musicals. And so it was actually just a really kind of a fun thing for our company to be involved with, more than anything. And the great thing about Broadway is it's a smaller investment, but you take a huge risk, but it could be nice returns in the end. So and it's just lovely to be able to support these artists. They just work so hard. They're so talented, and to be in that position, I feel very fortunate to be able to support what the great work they do.
Jennifer, when you were starting, like you said, you had done all these things, whether it was, as a family with your family or when you were first, did you have anyone that that you looked up to or that you saw doing these, whether it was everything or doing these different pieces and you were like, I want to do that. That's something that someone's career that you wanted to emulate?
That's such a good question. I would tell you, and this may seem weird, but I have always loved indie films, especially the kind that used to be out there, right? And one of the companies I would always see on the credits was Magnolia. And I thought, gosh, what kind of company is that? They do good stuff. I like everything they do, and I always see them, right? And I always thought I want to meet those people, and someday maybe understand how they did what they did, right? And I have met those people, and they're fabulous people. It's a great company. They have incredible people, and Mark Cuban obviously is a brilliant businessman, and like I said, it's a great company. The other person who I always saw their name coming up on the films I loved was Kathleen Kennedy. And I thought, good for her. She's with, Steven Spielberg and she's making great stuff. And there's a woman up there producing. I thought, well, that's really cool. And the other fortunate thing in that is recently I did a film about Dan Rather with Frank Marshall, her husband, and met Kathleen, and she came to the premiere of the film that we had at Tribeca a couple years ago. And I got to tell you, I was like, I was a little like starstruck. I didn't even know how to talk to her because I didn't want to look like I was kind of like, you know, a weirdo. But I was like, oh my God, you've just done such great work in the world. And, a powerhouse woman out there, in the world of men and making a difference and doing great films. And so it's funny how those people pop in your life like that. But yeah, from what I remember, I didn't set out and go, yeah, I want to be Kathleen Kennedy. But as I got into the business, I remembered those were the company Magnolia and Kathleen Kennedy were like the two names that stuck with me through the films I watched. Yeah.
When you decided to hang your shingle, what were some of the fears that you had to overcome? Or were you just like,
Like,
I'm just gonna go in there like a ball of
I'm just
energy?
I at that point, think about 52, I got these, I tell people every once in a while, I tell people, especially some younger filmmakers who like to explain to me how things are. I say to them, let me help you understand something. I've raised three millennials. So let that sink in a minute, right? And I've raised three of them. So you learn to kind of move through the world without fear because you got to get things done, right? And that's kind of what producers do
Yeah.
is we put out fires and get shit done. And so and I just didn't come at it with any fear. I was a little afraid. I'm not. I'll say this. My first visit out to Sundance and the Catalyst program, I was a little afraid like, oh, can I do this? And I really studied the program and tried to make sure I knew everybody was there and outlined like who I wanted to talk to and meet. I a little afraid, but then I got there and I was like, this is awesome. So I just went
I
for
feel
it.
like that's how
So
you go through life, Gretchen, too. You've raised 4.
Yeah. I have kids. And it's funny because what you said, and I think about this all the time. My kids went to this, this wonderful little grade school, St. Martin of Tours, and the principal at the school. I remember I had a girlfriend. She had a big job at AT&T, she was huge in data, and I was running ArcLight at the time, and the principal would call us like, I want you to run do our auction this year. I want you to, and we were in her office and I'm like, oh my God, is there not anyone that doesn't have like a big time job and 4 kids and, Virginia
right,
had kids and all this. And she was like, oh, I only ask working mothers with multiple kids if there's anything financial, timelines, all of this. And she was this fabulous, fabulous principal and woman and, very much a business person as well. But she was like, oh, working mothers are who you go to because
yeah,
exactly what you said, Jen, get shit done. And
get
there's
shit done.
there's none. So when you were saying that about your millennials and your kids, I mean, it really is. I wish I try to pull that. I'm not going to enter with fear. I try to pull that up more. I kind of have to fake it till I make it on some of that. But you're right. You do. You walk in, you acknowledge a little fear, but the things that you've done. I mean, starting a production company and because it's so easy. It's not that you want to be lazy or you say, oh, I'm 52, I could retire, but you really can. It's making that decision not to rest on your lore or like you're always wanting to learn, always wanting to meet new people. And, that's the thing that's exciting and so interesting about doing things like that is the people that you're meeting and the things that, the stories you're hearing, and then you're bringing them to us. Such a gift to all of us that you did that.
Oh, thank you. I've always been that kind of person that if you say no to me, I always say, "Did you mean no or did you mean maybe? Or did you mean maybe we could sort this out a little bit?" But, I love this new campaign from Nike. It says, "You can't win, so win." And that was all. If someone said you can't do it, I was like, "Okay, let's see." Right? If I can do it. I don't know that I would have done this with any industry, right? Like, I don't know that I'd be in this place if I had gone into, like, I just don't see myself in corporate America. No offense to corporate America, but I don't do rules. Yeah, I don't do rules well. Um, so uh uh so I'm sometimes I mentor women and I say things like, I know there's no seats at the table. I get it. So build a different table and have your own seats. And it's hard, but that's sometimes a statement that's not fair, right? Because it's challenging to just be. I'm a Scorpio. If you know the Enneagram at all, I'm an 8.
Yep. Yep.
A firstborn, a
Me
woman
too.
in her
I'm an
60s.
8. I'm an
There we
8 and I'm
go.
a
See,
firstborn.
there we go, right? There I've seen memes that say that we're the scariest ones out there,
Yeah, I'm
but
not a
scare
Scorpio. I'm a Gemini, but I am an 8 on the Enneagram.
there you go.
I'm a 9.
Yeah, see, but you're the nice people. You're the
I'm a 9 and a Pisces. Everything
I'm
is
not an
hyper emotional and there's no rational, like,
Isn't
I
it
love
fun
that.
how right they are though?
I know. Well, and you know what? They bring a sense to the world where there's more artistry that could be brought. I'm like a black and white, right? And sometimes someone's got to sit in the room and go, Jen, let's just think about like some feelings here or something. I'm like, feelings? What feelings, right? So it's good for me to be around people that have a little sense of that. But I do think that I've realized that one of the things I think my challenge is good for is young women in the industry, because they can get put in siloed into spaces where if they just fight for themselves, they don't have to be there. It's hard. It's a tough industry for sure. Um, but like for example, I have this wave grant. We started this about 6 years ago. It's called Women at the Very Edge, right? And we built this whole wave grant around kind of my philosophy of what kind of mentorship, what kind of help do we want to give these women? And these are young women who've never directed a narrative short. They've written a script. They have this passion for it, but they are literally sitting at the very edge. They have no chance whatsoever to get this done. No chance. They don't know how to do it. They haven't gotten any help. So we only give $5,000. Now, that doesn't seem like very much money, but if you're doing a little short, that's enough to get you started, right?
Yeah.
So, but what we give them is 40 to 60 hours of mentorship. So they spend time with our experts on budgeting. They spend time on experts on building out your crew. They work with our legal teams. They get time with our editors. They get time with anybody we can throw at them. We have this wonderful woman, Brenda Robinson, who works with us, and she teaches this at USC. And she comes in with her mentor hat on, and talks to these women. And so by the end of the year, and we've done this, I said, we're in our 6th year, all 22 women who've come through our program have completed a narrative short. And
That's amazing.
but they have 2 huge skills that we teach them. First of all, they learn how to work with women. They have to twice a month, they have to be on a Zoom together. They have to read each other's scripts. They have to give notes. They have to collaborate, right? So they come out now. They know how to work with women. The other thing they have is an MBA in the business of the business, because we have taught them how to look at your project as a business. And so they have taken this leap from the very edge, sometimes over their peers, because those peers don't have this experience, and now they can go. So is there roadblocks still there? Absolutely. But now you have a huge calling card that you can start to move them out of the way. And we are so proud of this program to date, because I feel like this is really the template of how so many times you sit in brunches and talks, and people go, how are we going to help women get a bigger step into film? How about you just go do it, right?
Yeah.
How about we
Yeah.
stop talking about it and how about we just go do it? So we just did it. And like I said, I believe this is the template that has to be used if we're really going to help young women break into the industry and have even a glimmer of hope to tell their stories.
Jen, when do your submissions and everything for that open? We'd love to promote it.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. So our submissions open in November, and
Okay,
then we
so
usually announce mid-July, mid-January.
Okay.
I'm actually going to be uh, hopefully talking about it at Cannes Lion in June, too,
Good.
presenting it
Okay.
to their diversity group. And especially in this time, right, where DEI is so under attack and all this, like it's more important than ever that we hunker down into the space
Hmm.
that's really helping and working with women and keep it going. So
Yeah, we'll get
I'm
it in our
pretty
newsletter
passionate
and
about it.
yeah,
absolutely. I
we'll
saw that
get
it was
and
closed on your website, so I was curious to know when you open.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we love that because finding women is our hardest uh, piece to this project. Um, finding we had 100 candidates this last time, but we'd
That's
like to.
great.
But we've now become a 501c3. The Wave Grant is a 501c part of the Wavelength Institute. And so now we can start raising money. And I'm hoping to open this up to more and more women, right? And so we're looking for funders and candidates and people that want to be mentors and advisors. So we're this next 5 years is our big push is to really expand this program.
That's fantastic.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the conversation, but we have some exciting news.
This summer, June 17th, is our annual summit. It's at the Skirball Center in LA, and it's a full day of panel discussions and fireside chats with all of your favorite people from the industry.
Go to womeninentertainment.com for more information and for your tickets. Now back to the conversation.
So, Jen, you mentioned that you loved, or Magnolia and those kinds of films. What else do you enjoy watching or reading, or when you do have some downtime? What are you enjoying right now?
Everyone's gonna laugh, but I love rom-coms. They're my favorite.
Yeah,
I love to
we're there
laugh.
with you.
With you.
I'm so happy that Pride and Prejudice is coming back out for its 20th year. It makes me so happy. Um,
Watching all the
but
like all the behind the scenes interviews that they've cut.
Oh,
right.
Loving it. I'm scooping them all up.
I'm sorry, but
Jim's
Matthew
really
McFadden,
so
right?
so
adorable.
good.
The
He's
fact that
Mr. Darcy forever.
it to me was like wild.
I know. I was like, thankfully he was. And I actually just finished The Offer, which is the
Yeah, yeah.
series about the Al Ruddy and his experience in making The Godfather. And I
Hmm.
thought it was
Hmm.
excellent, excellent, excellent portrayal of not only how passionate producers are for these projects that we work on, but to what lengths would we go to get a picture made, right?
Yeah, and isn't
I thought
that is that Lisa Filippini's project? Was she the No, who was the writer on that? It was I'm trying to think. It was somebody that we've
I
talked
know.
to that was so
I
interesting.
saw the names.
Yes, it was. Oh my gosh, now it's gonna drive me crazy. Oh, Jill Santopolo, right?
There we go.
No,
Jill,
was it Jill
Jill. No,
Santopolo? Oh
hold
No.
gosh,
on.
I can't think of who it was. Anyway, I'll think of it who it was. There was somebody that we talked to was on was involved with that. It was
Oh,
so
Toscano?
what?
Nikki Toscano?
Oh, Nikki, that's who it was. It was Nikki
Nikki
Toscano.
Toscano.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking
Yes.
this up now. Yeah.
We talked to Nikki, yeah, because she's doing Long Bright River right now.
Oh,
Um
right. Okay.
yeah, she did The Offer. I know, I love that. Miles Teller was so good in that.
But he's
Um
a Philly boy. He's a Philly boy too. So I live in Philadelphia. My offices are in New York, and I
Oh,
have
okay.
an office in LA and the UK. But I actually live in Philadelphia, so
Oh, and
big Philly.
he is a
Yeah.
big fan. I know we're almost out of time, Jen, but I'd love to hear your perspective on the filming going. You mentioned you have an office in the UK about, all the production and filming moving not only out of California, but out of the US.
It's the tax credit. It's the driver of everything. And the states in particular, they just need to get their act together. I don't know why they hate Hollywood so much, but these tax credits are so important. And when the UK announces 35% tax credit, and they're going back and forth with the big streamers and what that's all going to look
Yeah.
like. But for a small indie film, that's a huge amount of money to get back,
Yeah.
right? So and the state of Kentucky's doing really well, Oklahoma's doing really well, New Jersey's doing really well, but the whole movement by the red states to kind of eliminate these tax credits, I don't know what they're thinking, because it's literally how us indie filmmakers survive. So that's the movement. Also, too, London is got a big commercial real estate group that's building out this whole thing called the Camden Film, not yards, but film something like that. And I always forget the name. I don't know why. It's because I'm old. Um, but but they're really pitching hard to get a lot of big studios over there and stuff. So
Okay.
you got to go where it's where you can film and get your projects done, and it's not so costly.
Yeah. Yeah. It just
Those
seemed
big budgets are hard. Yeah, they're
we're
really
hearing
hard.
that from so many people that we speak to, and we just saw Ben Affleck's, interview and him speaking out, but we're hearing that from everybody we talk to.
We have a big film actually being released tonight worldwide, called On Swift
Oh, Swift
Horses.
horses. Mhm.
Yeah, with Jacob Elordi and Daisy Edgar Jones. And that was probably one of the bigger budget films that was filmed in California before all the shit hit the fan, so to speak. But we're excited about it. But again, there's places you just can't go film right now. It's not financially worth it. So anyway, but so
Well,
excited about
Jenifer,
that.
thank you so much for coming. It was so nice to meet you, and this has been like a little masterclass. I love it, and production and starting, not being afraid and starting new things. And
Right.
I see kind of that we have a lot of partnership potential here. So I'm so happy we were able to meet.
I'm so happy to. Thank you so much for your patience too, for me getting on. And yeah, I hope we can keep in touch. This has been so much fun.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for listening to In Her Words. We hope you'll join us at womenandentertainment.com and go to our Substack for extended interviews and behind the scenes access.